Hello and welcome to Just a Moment. My name is Kristen Harding, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Jenna Lee. Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Ooh, that can seem pretty boring at the moment. Um, okay, let's see. Well, I'm in my middle age. I grew up in Holton Lake, Michigan, which is a resort town. It's where people go on vacation in Michigan. Um, like all the people from Detroit and Pontiac and stuff will end up going up there because there's a big lake and there's all sorts of outdoor sporting and there's 52 bars around a 33-mile lake. So there's something for just about anybody, whatever they want to do, outdoor sports or swimming or water sports or drink. Just saying that you're going for it and end up drinking anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I grew up on the lake, so I spent a lot of time in the water. My name was Jennifer Gibbs, but my neighbor called me Jennifer Gills because he couldn't get me out of, they couldn't get me out of the water unless I was frozen. Um, but I grew up pretty isolated. Uh, we moved into an area that was all retirees. My parents didn't want to live around kids, and they wanted a specific because they were older, and they didn't really think about, but that kid needs other kids, you know. So my dog and the water and the trees. I would climb up in the trees, and when the retirees would go for a walk, I'd be up in the tree and I'd say, hi. And they're looking around and they can't find me because nobody looks up,
Right?
when they hear a sound, you know. Um, and I spent a lot of time out in the woods and a lot of time with my dog out in the woods and in the water. I just spent a lot of time outside just finding things to do, you know. Uh, which that isolation, I spent a lot of time really lonely. And now we'll skip through a whole lot of things, but now I live in an apartment by myself with a dog. And so I spend a lot of time, alone. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I'm not outside doing things because I'm afraid of snakes and I live in Oklahoma, you know, and I don't have the vitality that I did when I was like 12.
Right.
I spend a lot of time, a lot of my time, doing crafts and things that just kind of take up mental space. But I spent a lot of time with the spiritual, uh, kind of different directions, learning about different directions in spirituality and psychology. Those are my two kind of passions, really. Although I'm not formally trained in medicine in any way, um, which I actually picked that up. I started a real spiritual drive when I was about 15. I grew up in a household that did not talk about God. Like it just wasn't a topic, you know,
Mhm.
which is funny because I found out that my mom's first marriage was to a Southern Baptist preacher's son.
Oh my goodness.
And they were part of the whole big community where every Sunday they had the huge family dinner and in the church, they always had to show up and be part of the family example of Christianity here. Just like, sorry.
Okay.
Um, and so that was part of the whole lifestyle, whether it was show or not, you
Right.
know, it was it was the culture that she
Right.
married into. And then, There was no discussion about it at all. You know, I did have I have a stepsister that took me to church several times, and it was always a positive experience for a young child. Because they had the little Bible school, children's Bible school that I get to go off to, and people gave me all sorts of positive interactions and stuff, but I
Hmm.
didn't really get much out of it, other than questions. Well, like, why did God create us then? Or, and I had a very Christian kind of idea of what God was, and an immature idea of God, because 5, 6 years old, and you're looking at the books with uh the picture books, and so
Right,
God, this dude with a beard, and you know my idea of that has really changed over the years. But when I was 15, um I started I felt a need for some sort of rules, like things were wrong, felt wrong inside of me, which is not uncommon for a 15-year-old. You
right,
know, we start wondering what our identity is, and
right.
what's purpose, and hormones are going, and things are changing, and I felt
We're
very
finding out who
lost.
we are.
Yeah. Well, I'd also had a car accident. I'd been in a car accident when I was 13, and I suffered major a serious traumatic brain injury that put me in a coma. So coming out of that, I came out of that with my brain scrambled. I mean,
Sure.
I had to relearn how to use a spoon. I had to relearn how to play clarinet. I had to relearn how to, because I was partially paralyzed on my right side, as well as my how to do things part in my brain
Right.
um, had gotten severely damaged. I have the scar here that was all indented,
Okay.
and literally I have a chunk of brain that calcified,
Okay.
so it's like gone. It's just like having a chunk of bone in there where brain used to be. And so I had a lot to recover from. And then as I was recovering from that, the depression, and I mean suicidal depression,
Yeah.
came in. And
Yeah.
I was lost in this world where I felt I knew I was insane. I knew something was wrong, but there was nobody to talk to, because they
Right.
just, oh, it's normal, and um, so I was looking for some sort of direction. There had to be if I could just follow some rules, if I could just know like the right thing to do, and I wasn't finding that around me. That it's like everything was open ended. You can be anything you want to be. You can do, but I needed there has to be an answer. There has to be some sort of relief. And I found somewhere one of my family members had given me a Bible for probably Christmas or something like that. Um, and I had found in it little things that offered hope, that the confusion and frustration in my heart could be healed, and
Right.
the thinking that God could change my heart, and that the relief from fear, the relief from anxiety, because my social anxiety started really bad then too. Um, So I was seeking that, and I was seeking
Hmm.
some sort of just tell me what I'm supposed to do, which ultimately I ended up not getting a whole lot of exactly what I was supposed to do. I mean, I know there are some very clear directions in that book, but I had a hard time finding something that seemed to fit me, because how many wives I could have, and if I raped a woman, I had to marry her. That didn't apply to me at like 15
No.
years,
No.
so,
But
you know,
Proverbs would. Like a soft answer turneth away wrath. That
Right.
that would make more sense.
But then I ran across this one part that really hit me. I'd been seeking, and I'd actually like sought out different denominations. I was still sticking to Christianity because it was
Mhm.
really the only thing I was familiar with, and I had kind of discounted everything else as being make believe,
Right,
which was kind of programmed. That was programmed into me through the media and the shows that you watch on TV and other people's joking about, making fun of. Um, but I'd found this one part that said that in order to understand the Word of God, and I'm paraphrasing here, but to understand the Word of God, that you had to be baptized. And so I had started going to this church that a friend was going to. And, but when I read those words, it was like, well, that's what I need. Now, I did not understand the difference between a water baptism and a spirit baptism,
right.
and that a spirit baptism can happen without the water thing.
Yes.
I really didn't understand that because I didn't, even though I was reading this Bible, angels and demons and these things that are literally 60% of the book still didn't register with me. I still excused it as, well, that kid had epilepsy, um, or which I still didn't really attach to. Remember, I was 15 with brain damage too, so
Right,
um, but I still couldn't make the leap into believing in what people called supernatural, you know,
right.
healings and stuff. Um, that, well, maybe Jesus could do it, but I had a hard time really swallowing that Jesus was God walking on earth. Because even though I had this idea of the dude with white hair and a long beard and sitting around in a robe, um, as God, I still had a broader idea of what God was. I understood, well, I comprehended to some extent omnipotence and,
Right,
omnipresence. And, I could not narrow God into a person.
right.
Um, so I had a hard time with, even though it was awesome, I still had a hard time really digesting that this man, even when I did the dedicated my life um and heart to uh Jesus and was kind of, it still had, like, there was just still this part of me that was saying that's not the whole story. That's not really what happened.
There's
Um
more to this.
yeah, yeah. But when I went and got baptized, I was there for a different reason than the other people that were getting baptized that day. They were getting baptized, I found out, as the next step in becoming a member of the church. But I went to get baptized because I wanted to have this understanding that you cannot have without the Holy Spirit in your body, whatever that was.
You
I
wanted
need,
to be initiated into the esoteric knowledge.
right. Well, I didn't think of it that way.
Hmm.
I was still looking for direction. And if I can't comprehend the direction, then I need that bridge, to bridge the gap that will give me that understanding. I wanted that relationship with God. I wanted what kept being described, which I couldn't comprehend what it was, but I knew that it must be better than not having it. So when I came out of being baptized, I was profoundly shook. I mean, I was shaking and it wasn't fear. It was I was just entirely overwhelmed, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'm seeing all these other people that they may as well have just taken a dunk in the pool out in somebody's backyard as far as how they were reacting afterward. And
Right.
I was having an entire, this has taken over my whole body thing,
Mm-hmm.
um, which now I understand what that was. It was, I was seeking the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit welcomed me, you
Yes.
know. Now I have many different names that I use for that. Many of them I got from the Bible, like the water of life,
Mm-hmm.
the spirit, the teacher, the spirit of compassion, the spirit of truth, um, the comforter. Uh,
The still small voice.
yeah, which sometimes is not so dang small. You ignore it long enough, like you ignore it long enough, but you keep asking for the same thing, and it will get louder.
Right.
You know, You know, I have literally thought I needed to go to the psych ward because it was not so quiet. you know. But
How did you get to the point where you're at now then?
well, it's a long journey. Um, I started out a little bit more. Started like sitting down with the Mormons, asking them questions, and then letting them know, okay, I got a problem when you tell me that God can't speak to women. God only speaks to men. Um, uh,
How did they explain that to you? Because I kind of take issue with that.
Well, women have a special gift from God. They have special gifts of being nurturing and have giving birth that men can't have. And then men have the connection where they can hear God and preach about what they've heard.
Mm.
And they lead and they're the authority in the home. Um, they just belief systems and find their way of how it's written in the Bible, and then I point out some of the other things written in the Bible, you know. But I kept seeking, but the unsettling and anxiety, the social anxiety, and I didn't know how to turn to God. I didn't know how to literally surrender. I didn't know how to allow God to lead. I didn't know how to listen to the still small voice, which is usually the first one and it's the highest thought. Um, and so at the same time that I was seeking in the church, I was also starting to drink. And drink was an immediate relief for the anxiety. And the anxiety I walked around with all the time, even when I was all by myself, I
Right.
had it, which apparently some of that was a residual effect of the brain injury, and it's hardwired in my system.
Right.
So it's not as if it may be permanent to some extent, you know, uh, but I'm not where I was.
Good.
So alcohol won out, and I became an alcoholic.
Hmm.
Um, and even when I was, I, w- I would think about God, but I had actually gotten to the point that I believed that there was a balance in the universe, that God keeps this balance, and it's necessary. And we must not get to choose if we're going to be evil or good. We're just stuck with wherever we get. This is alcoholic thinking.
Right. No, I get you.
yeah, that we're just stuck with whatever, even though we want, we have compassion and we want for what's good, you know, still ended up making these decisions that I had previously understood as being unacceptable, and which ultimately I ended up naming as evil. Um, so I reached a point where I wanted to die. I'd been waiting to die. Actually, when I was 17, I got a, just 6 months before I was, or one semester. It was between the end of the first semester. It was during Christmas break. I was given a diagnosis that I had a terminal illness. And so I had 4 years to live. And well, of course, I'm wondering why God, what had I done so bad at that age? I mean, the whole evil thing, like we don't have a choice on if we're going to be evil or not, happened when I was in my early 20s. But at 17, I was hit with this thing, and um, there wasn't any, like, nobody knew how to support me, and all of my family just stopped showing up because they were either afraid or they didn't know how to act around me or whatever. But that kind of thing really isolates you, which, remember, I grew up very isolated to begin with. So, what little bit of, I mean, it was a huge family, but we didn't see them very often because mom and dad moved very far away from them. Plus my dad was
Mhm.
an alcoholic, so they didn't want to spend a whole lot of time around him.
Right.
um, which he was a great man, don't get me wrong. I mean, there were some wonderful, I mean, the dude was a fireman, a career fireman, and he had all sorts of awards. I mean, he saved people's lives in situations where they don't call for men to go into because it's too dangerous. And if you go in and you die, there's a whole lot of people's lives that you can't save. But he
Right.
risked his life many times in order to get people out of dangerous situations. So, he just also had the illness of alcoholism as well. And with that came a lot of very damaging behavior to our family. But so
Do you think
was,
he might have been drinking to cover the anxiety?
I I now know that my dad had an anxiety disorder, but it had never been diagnosed. And he would have panic attacks, but they would come out as angry, where we might do the the flight or freeze.
Right.
He would do the fight, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so I mean that had us isolated from family by quite a bit as well. So then when that event happened, uh, it really changed the dynamics with our family. Our family gatherings, we weren't invited to them anymore. People didn't come visit us anymore. Um, and then my town found out, and that kind of ruined everything too. And so I ended up moving out of town. So I went through this, accepting that I was dying. It was just hanging over my shoulders for so long. Remember, I was 17. I'm 53 now, and I'm still not dead. So I got some cuss words for you for that one. You know, got some cuss words for that too. So here I am. I'm I'm a nightly blackout, sloppy drunk. Thinking because like they told me don't drink and don't smoke cigarettes and don't do these things, and you know um, in order to be able to live longer. And my decision was, screw it. I'm going to have a blast until I die, even if it means I die sooner. I'm not going to. I guess I was already isolated enough. I didn't want to end up having to, cut everything else. You know, and the only people I'd ever seen having real fun were people that were drinking. Like if we went bowling, there was a bar. If we went um, to softball, there was the bar after. If we went fishing out on the lake, there was beer coming, So, all the adults in my mind, that's what they did in order to have fun. So I was going to have a blast. So I started drinking heavily. And by the time I was 24 years old, I was a full-fledged alcoholic where I had a kidney infection at one point where my doctor wanted to put me in the hospital and I would not go into the hospital because I wouldn't be able to drink. Turned out I was so sick I couldn't drink anyway. It just made me throw up.
But it
But
helped with the pain, and back then, that's probably what
uh,
you thought you needed.
well, and it was the only way that I knew how to interact with other people because I could go to the bar and everybody, pretty much everybody except everybody until you end up with some random fight or something toward the end of the night, which I was really good at triggering people to want to fight because I was a mess. I meant to be friendly and happy, but somehow that just pissed people off. you know,
Oh my goodness.
I
I
was I
understand
was
that.
I was a wild, so, and I was a big flirt too. Um, but I got to the point where, like I tried to kill myself. Um, Other things happened in my life. I had decisions because I was dying. So to prepare for that, I was going to be dead. I had to make, I ended up having kids. I ended up having to make arrangements for them to be somewhere, in a family that could raise them because I wasn't going to be there, which sent me into a suicide depression where I did try to commit suicide. And then I came to that same thing. I was pissed. I woke up and I wasn't dead. Um, Finally got to the point because I wanted to die. I got to the point where I wasn't afraid of it anymore. I wanted to die, and I kept not dying. So I got to this point, not to die. I'm going to die eventually. If I'm going to keep living, I can't keep living like this because the only focus I had when I woke up was getting over the hangover enough to get ready to look like I wasn't hungover to go back to the bar, to get hungover again.
Sounds like a
Um,
vicious cycle to me.
I mean, that was the only real friend. Now I wasn't good at keeping friends either because I would I would up and move, like get an impulse. Before you know it, I'm moving from a house that I own in Alabama all the way to California just because some kids at a truck stop asked if people were going to California because they were running away from home. And I'm like, no, we're just here to have a meal. And then by the time the meal's over, I'm like, oh, we could go to California. I've got a sister in California. And then just within 24 hours, I am on the road driving to California. Within 3 weeks, I'm buying a new house. I'm moving to California.
Wow.
Yeah, well, remember, head injury
Right?
and years long mental and breakdown that nobody identified, fueled by the alcohol. So I didn't
You're fading
help.
in and out. Could you repeat that?
Okay. I was in years long mental and emotional breakdown because as a teen, I found out I was dying. And there was nothing for me to do. I was to be going to college on a music scholarship. I had like this whole life, planned in front of me. And it all fell through in a day. And then there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no purpose for going or being or planning. So my impulses were my only guide of what to do next, you know. So it was hard friendships because just disappear somewhere else. Um, so all I had left was drinking, which I don't mean to make this drinking, when I found people that they used to have their lives, but drinking, that's something else, it opened me back that God, but in a more broad sense. Like it didn't have to be defined in this book. It didn't have to have these things that just didn't seem right. Like, excluding people, and if people weren't good enough to be in the church, or um, I mean, just things that's wrong, like with that God doesn't speak to women. It's just they felt contrary to an all-loving, God solutions to everything you could need. Why up to women? Kind of. Well, this allowed me to grow to something, and they had tools. And that's this one thing that we had to stop doubting the power of, or when we saw people solving their everyday problems by a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe. For spirit of the universe really hard. Like that one I can go with first. The every, people solving by a simple reliance thing. So hard, and I didn't have any idea what it was. So I ended up calling somebody that had been doing this thing for like 24 years. I'm like, what does that mean? And she explained it to me. When I think of myself as when I was 4 years old. My father delivered ice, and refrigerators didn't have ice. You had to put ice in the fridge in order to keep everything. And that was
Could
he
you move
delivered
closer?
ice.
I can barely hear you.
Okay, so her dad delivered ice, and she was just 4 years old. Well, every day that her dad had gone to work at a certain time, she would go to the screen door, her dad. And every day her dad showed up at the same time. And that was a simple romance. And that gave me my first inkling. I can ask need for all the crap that I want, like I want a bicycle, or I want to, but I could ask God for what I needed inside and know that God will show up. That is a simple reliance. And that opened a door to me, because I'd lost a lot of faith and belief in God through my drinking, through the I'm dying thing. And so that really opened the door. And then as I got better and started to really recover from what I had done to my body, what alcohol had done to my body, I started working with other people. And then they started saying, "My God, how did you know about your psychic?" And I kept denying that. Oh, I'm not psychic. I pay attention and I listen, whatever. Long time later of me still denying it, because I didn't even believe it was real. I almost died again from a botched that I had, where I almost bled out. It took 5 units of blood before they finally stopped the internal bleeding. And before I had gone into that, I'd been in a group of people that a couple of ladies had asked me if it was okay with me if they sent me Reiki, which I had no idea what it was. But if they sent me Reiki while I was the surgery, and when I came out of this and survived, once they finally took 24 hours for them to get the blood pressure machine to actually read, there was a person attached to it. you know, like there wasn't enough blood in my body to have blood pressure. Once I came out, I knew that their prayers, their Reiki, whatever that was what got me, because I shouldn't have lived through that. I shouldn't have survived through it. And then I had some problems that sent me into the hospital a few times. That one was a miraculous healing. I had a bubble of infection that they biopsied. What was there? They found it in MRI. They had it on film. They had the biopsy and proof of this infection. They were afraid that it would burst. And if it burst, then my entire abdominal cavity would have been covered in infectious stuff, you know. And so they got hospitalized, and they were preparing to do a procedure the next day in order to safely move it. And I had contacted those women again, and I had done a prayer that they had told me, and it was gone the next day. Now they told me it was going to take 12 days of this broad spectrum antibiotic, and it might take even longer than that to get out of the hospital because of the type of infection that it was that
Right.
had inside of me. It was completely gone. I had to go home from the hospital because there was no evidence that it was there. So when I got out of that, I knew whatever this Reiki thing is, I need to learn how to do it, because I want to help people the way those helped me.
Right.
So after I recovered, it took a while to recover from that. I couldn't ground, and like crystals. These women stayed with me, and they kept giving me every night. I recovered that, learn about Reiki, and an explosion happened of awareness, where now I disbelieve the angels and demons and all of these other things that were described in the Bible completely were removed, because now I could see them, and I could interact with them, and I could heal people.
Wow.
And I didn't even believe I wanted to do was not a gift I wanted. I did not. And when
I'm sorry. It's coming in and out, and so it's hard to understand. You wanted to believe what?
so I did not want that gift. I was like, if you're going to give, a special gift, the gift of the spirit, gifts of the spirit, that would not be the one I'm choosing. I don't want to see devils or see demons and deal with demons, because the response of the women that I've been talking to that were trying to let me know that I was psychic and like really pulling people away when I was doing readings on, which I wasn't even taking very seriously at the time. It just was a Facebook group that I got into. They started fearing me because I could see these, I could do something with them, and I could remove them. They then turned against me, said that I was working with them, that I was a dark worker.
No, you're not a dark worker.
And so then they got rid of me. They kicked me out of the group. Fortunately, a bunch of people that I had helped while in that group followed me out of that group. So it helped, because so rejected. I really
Some of those Facebook groups are not helpful. They're not kind, and they're mean-spirited.
No, they were like all light, no negativity, no, and I'm the person. No, you got negativity. You spend time with it. You have to express. And then once, then you can, but you've got to get it out of you. Motion. It was an emotion born, has to live. It will go away. Don't live forever. They come, they serve a purpose. You let them be, let them flow through. But if you try to have them, they get stuck. They rot and they make you sick. Mm-hmm. So you have to allow all the aspects are some kind of an outlet, as long as you're not hurting others. You find ways of doing it, causing damage. And so my favorite doing that is like hate rock.
Is what?
Hate rock. Like bodies, bodies, let the bodies hit the floor, let the bodies hit the floor. Yeah, I'll play that stuff.
Well, it's actually time for a break. If you don't mind, we're going to go to a break, and I'll be back. We'll be back in 4 minutes. So,
okay.
Thank you.
I'll be here.
Welcome to Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, where magic meets the mundane and the extraordinary becomes everyday. Are you ready to gift yourself with the whispers of ancient power stones? To feel and hear the echoes of our ancient past? Dive into a world where each pendant tells a story, where rare stones hold secrets known only to the universe itself. At Crystal Cove, our collection isn't just jewelry. It's a gateway to a realm of mysticism and wonder. Let the shimmering opal guide you through twilight dreams, or embrace the fiery energy of the sun with our exquisite amber pendants. Each piece, handcrafted by the hands of a true mystic who understand the language of the earth and the fire of one's heart. At Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, we believe that every soul deserves to sparkle. Whether you seek solace in the calming embrace of amethyst or wish to dance with the vibrant hues of turquoise, our collection holds the key to unlocking your inner magic if you allow it to be so. Visit us today and discover the pendant that speaks to your soul. Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, where the beauty of our amazing earthy realm meets the magic of the cosmos.
Hey there, Hunter. Go check out our friends at Colorado Custom Game Calls. They are all about creating a high-quality, custom, unique game calls at an affordable price. They are here for hunters that can't and won't pay upwards of $180 to $200 per game call. They pride themselves on giving their customers the opportunity to not only purchase an affordable and high-quality call, but to customize their game call to their liking. So listen up and go check them out. That's www.coloradocustomgamecalls.com. They got calls for all type of game, and all the game calls can be custom made to your own likeness. That's www.coloradocustomgamecalls.com. Tell them Matthew sent you from the Matrix Minds.
What is up, all my beautiful and gorgeous souls? I am Michelle Espinosa, otherwise known as the Shaman, through the Matrix Mind Media. So tell me, how many times have you wished that you had that special power of prediction? To know what was going to happen before it actually happened and took place. To have some power and control over that situation before things came flying at you out of left field. The thing is, you actually can have that power. You can be aware of what's coming. Tune in to Astrology TV with me for Breaking the Cage every Sunday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Matrix Mind Media. And I will go through the astrology and help put you on the right course and get you back in control of your own life. Love you guys.
This CBD fluid is a whole flower fluid extracted from the cannabis flower. We don't use any heat, butane, or chemicals when we extract, so we get all of the components of the plant. All the CBD, CBG, CBA, all the terpenes, all the flavonoids. This allows our body to absorb at 60 to 90% rather than the average of 6 to 10% absorption you would get with a CBD oil. Because our bodies are made up of mostly water and this is a fluid, it's highly absorbable so that you're getting 500% more nutraceuticals per dose. We also have this available in our CBD spray as well as a muscle rub with all kinds of botanicals. You're going to absolutely love it.
Check it out, Brainiacs. MatrixMinds.live/CBD. CBD I use. Feel free again. Feel alive again.
And we're back.
Oh, hello.
Oh, my goodness. We've covered so much already, but do you have a mission? Do you feel like you have a mission here?
Like I was saying, our souls are who we really are. You know, that's who we are permanently through lifetimes and incarnations, and our types of incarnations that don't include, you know, being that our purpose as a whole, as a whole soul, the ultimate soul group, is the same as the universe, is expansion, to continually come more and expand more, and anything that we can imagine to reach out and experience that, and to create. Excuse me. Well, I don't ascribe to the belief that we come here and we're a human that pretty much carries a backpack around in our soul. I mean, like a soul around in a backpack. You know, that just we die, it floats away and goes or rides somebody else. No. I understand. How I understand it is that the process that we're working on is to elevate the physical that we've created into the soul existence. Now we're falling short because we get all, you know, obsessed with things that the brain attaches to. You know, get the work until you're so retired, whatever goals we set, or being right versus other people, or choosing the right side, or accumulating things, or, you know, whatever we get obsessed in doing, or like life is live for my kids. Well, you know, those kind of things are so narrow for what a soul is.
Right.
So to integrate that skill and to elevate a soul in human form and witnessing and expressing, learning and growing from to embrace the soul of that. It won't interfere with the free will of the body. So it has to be like a partnership that you can agree, reach a point where you can integrate. The soul
That you what? I'm sorry, it's fading in and out again.
Huh?
It's fading in and out again. Could you repeat what you said?
So the soul knows how to do this, but the brain conditioning is resistant to allowing that to happen, because ego's afraid to die, ego's afraid not to be important and lose control, and so that's the process. And Carl Jung talked about the process of individuation, which is growing up, becoming independent and separate from your parents and living your own life. Well, if you expand individuation into developing into your whole being, that's all of our abilities, all of our potentials. That's when we become who we really are. And I think that perhaps I can, while I work on that myself, what I learn, the things that I learn, I need to share with other people.
Yep.
You know, the more, and the universe works this way. If the universe sends you something and you celebrate it so much that you share it with other people, the universe sends you more of it. And so it just expands and expands. If you try to hoard it, then it spoils. Same way that when an emotion is born, it needs to live, be honored, and then let go, allow it to move on and change energy and become something else. Well,
Right.
that's ultimately what we come here to do. We get so attached to the mundane that we never realize that we brought all the sources that we needed, and we have access to it. Our soul has access to the entire universe of everything. And so it is readily available to us once we allow ourselves to recognize that is for this machine. The machine dies. The soul doesn't.
Right.
And
Do
so
you think soul gets recycled, or do you think we have past lives or reincarnation?
I don't think that the soul gets recycled. It's just one continuum that we might get out of the car and get into a new car, or get out of the train and get into a new train. But it's the same being. That brain is the thing that starts, and the brain doesn't know that this is a continuation. So the soul can heal the psychological things that have gotten messed up, but don't allow it to, because we've been so disconnected through conditioning. And that's what I think the dark so-called dark side, which it has its purpose, its equal purpose to the light side, the whole polarity. Both are necessary. If you don't have that challenge, if you don't have weight to do weight with, if you don't have the weight, then you don't build the strength. You must have the challenge. You have to have the resistance. So that is entirely is necessary to have that resistance develop, strengthen. But we believe what that side said, and we believed its promises. We believed the lies. We believed that we get more out of deception than we do out of being truthful. But that's part of the process too. That won't last forever. The pendulum will swing, and we'll get back to the other end eventually.
Right.
For the process. If I fail at it this time, if I don't carry out the mission, which I really have to do it for myself. If I don't do it for myself, then anything I try to do for anybody else is just fake. So
Right.
I really have to commit to that process myself. Otherwise, I'm really useless to anyone else. But if I don't, if I flub it up and I don't do a very good job with a person, if that person is truly seeking it, then another opportunity will show up. Like if you can't comfort somebody, they need that comfort. Like right now, they need rest and comfort. I can't comfort them. There's a good chance that they'll run into somebody like you that is able to do that. So we need will be provided if willing to accept, or willing to ask, instead of thinking we have to do all ourselves in our little finite bodies and minds. It's not a pass or fail thing.
No.
But it's a wonderful opportunity to be part of the expansion.
I'm sorry, it's a wonderful opportunity, what?
To be part of the expansion, the entire expansion purpose of the universe. So I'm sorry I tried to correct it as much as I could.
I don't know why all of a sudden it was like going in and out a bit, but I think we got the message, and I really appreciate you.
Well, there
talking
is
with me about this.
out here. There's train activity out here, and sometimes that kind of messes with the digital stuff. Did you hear the train?
I just did. Yes, I did.
Sorry about that.
It could well be part of it. Just as we're getting actually almost to an hour now, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience?
Something I would like to say to the audience. Well, remember I told you, I had mentioned to you, you'd asked me about a message.
A message?
The boots system. That is that you are you brought to this world. You are the gift. You don't have to be other than who you are. That you need is inside of you. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not worth how to access what's really true inside of you. And that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work. It can be very hard. It's very painful to move through that process, but it is so worth doing the work. And please don't try to do it yourself. Please find a mentor. Please find somebody to guide you through it that's already been through it. Because in your own mind, if you had the solution in your brain, you would have already used it.
Right?
We need each other.
Yeah, we do.
And I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Jenna. I really appreciate you being on the show with me. I just want to say thank you to everybody out there listening. And remember that you are loved. Be well. Be safe out there. And we'll see you on the next show. Bye.
And bye.